Oh, hi, everybody. Ezra Levant here. I am in the live stream seat again, which I love to do. I was away last week. Rebel News had our Rebel News Cruise, which we do once a year. We invite our most enthusiastic viewers to join us and hang out with us on the high seas. We sailed up to Alaska, so it was me, Alexa Lavoie, David Menzies, Drea Humphrey, friends of the Rebel or Rebel adjacent people like Tamara Leach and Amy Ham, the nurse in BC who has been persecuted for her support of J.K. Rowling. So it's a great week, and but I'm back on dry land, which I'm very glad to do. And I don't know if you know, but about a week ago I announced a secret that I've been living with in some shame quietly. I came out of the closet and said something publicly I'd never said before, which is something you would never have guessed looking at me, which is that I'm fat. And I set up a website called fatchallenge.ca, and I challenged other fat people in our industry to lose weight. And there's really only one other fat journalist I can think of in Canada, and I spent some time researching, and that's my dear friend Rosemary Barton of the CBC. So I have challenged Rosemary Barton to a fitness challenge, because the both of us, hopefully, it's strength in numbers, right? So I'm delighted to say, and I suppose I'm giving it away, but in the first 2 weeks, I have lost 11 pounds. And it was very difficult to do on the cruise. So I feel great about it. And there's one other person who I think I'm going to issue the Fat Challenge to. Can you call up a picture of Canada's new public health officer? And while you're at it, if you can call up a picture of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's true that the sign pointing the way, the sign itself does not have to go. Like if there's a sign telling you how to get to Edmonton, it's not a criticism of the sign that it itself hasn't gone. And that analogy, which is sort of weak, is my point for saying you can have a fat doctor. You can have a doctor who smokes. You can have a skinny chef. You can have a fitness trainer who is himself not fit. And they can give great advice. But, you got to be thinking, well, hang on, why aren't they following their own advice, right? That's what I think. And so when I look at that'll do, that one right there. When I look at Canada's new public health officer who replaces Theresa Tam, it's that woman on the left. And thank you for calling up the image of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a man in his 70s who can do push-ups and calisthenics. That's not a bad picture because it juxtaposes the two, but can you get me a picture of Theresa Tam and that woman on the left? I forget her name. And then if you want to grab some B-roll of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. working out. What's that lady's name again? Yeah, that'll do. What's her name? So the one on the left, still wearing a mask in 2025, is the brutal authoritarian Theresa Tam. She's gone now. And the woman raising her fist, why are they raising fists? What's with the fists? What's the name of the lady on the right? Do you remember? I'll Google it. New public health officer in Canada. So I can't find her name quickly. Hopefully she will remain as obscure as Theresa Tam was until the lockdowns. What's her name? Nancy Hamzawi. $296,000 a year job. Oh, by the way, she's not a medical doctor, which makes sense because if I'm not mistaken, Tedros, is he a vet or something? Or no, sorry, Albert Bourla, one of those two, is not a medical doctor. So go back to the picture of Nancy Hamzawi for a second, because I think she should join my Fat Challenge. And the whole point of the Fat Challenge is to unleash the constructive effects of negative feedback. What I mean by that is just because someone says something that hurts your feelings doesn't mean it's wrong. They might be a little bit mean in how they do it, but sometimes truths feel mean when we hear them. And That's what I want to unleash by announcing my fatchallenge.ca, is that I welcome fat shaming. Don't be super mean about it, but that's the encouragement I am going to need to get down to my target weight of 201 pounds. And that's what I got on the cruise, because everybody on the cruise was talking to me about it. And that meant I couldn't sneak dessert. I had dinner with everyone every night, and they were watching, and I did not have dessert a single time on the ship. Anyways, I'm sorry to start that way. I just wanted to give you the big news in my life. I was away on a cruise. I'm down 11 pounds. I'm challenging Rosemary Barton to the fatchallenge.ca, and I'm also challenging Nancy Hamzawi, who looks like me. I think she's like a deuce and a half, probably. And that's not good. You know, you see old people. I'm talking about people in their 90s. Sometimes my own grandma lived to be over 100. You do not see people that thick living to be 100. You know, in fact, they rarely live to be 80, frankly. And yeah, perfect. Give me that picture. That's RFK Jr. Look at that. That is not easy. How many is he doing there? Bam, bam, bam. I put it to you, your average 20-year-old couldn't do that. See, if that fellow there, and I say again, a fat doctor can still give good advice. A skinny cook still can cook for someone else. But wouldn't you look, I mean, how many did he do there? And he's still going. I would trust RFK Jr. Oh my, he's still going? Come on now. Come on. I think he was at nearly 20 of them. Yeah, that's a good one there. Look at him. How many plates has he got on there? That's RFK Jr. I guess what I'm saying is, why don't our public health officials, that looks like a warm-up weight. That doesn't look particularly heavy. Yeah, would you rather take advice from him or from Nancy Hamzawi? So I'm saying, Nancy, look, sister, you gotta change your look, because everyone's gonna make a sort of joke about you being fat, because it actually speaks to your profession. A fat pundit doesn't necessarily undo his punditry, but a fat public health officer, like I say, it's like a skinny chef. What, you don't eat your own food or something? Anyway, speaking of food, I would like to show you my pinned tweet right now. It's Friday afternoon, and for the Jews, that's called the Sabbath, and the Jews have a little bit of a Sabbath bread called the challah. That's the Yiddish word. You might have seen a challah bread in a bakery, and if you want to put that on the screen, I would just like to say Shabbat Shalom to my Hebrew followers, and that looks absolutely delicious. And I posted that today, and I tagged Ali Khamenei, the head of Iran. I just want to make sure he has some peace for the first time in weeks. And we're living under Pax Americana. That's Latin for American peace. Donald Trump called it the 12-day war, and I want to tell you, I don't know if you remember how it ended. Trump said, I just spoke to the Israelis and I just spoke to the Iranians, and they both want a ceasefire, and it'll start in 6 hours and 12 hours, and he just made a tweet or a Truth Social. And both countries said, no, what are you talking about? I don't know if you remember, it was just a flickering moment. The Iranian foreign minister said, no, we don't know what you're talking about, and I think someone in Israel said the same thing. But Trump was so insistent that it had happened, and he tweeted about it. And both countries sort of fired one last shot, and then they obeyed. I think Donald Trump literally willed the ceasefire into existence. Can you find that ceasefire tweet? Or I think it might have been on Truth Social. I'm not sure. But maybe you got it right there. Yeah, pump that one up there. See if you can find a good version, then I'll just read it. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final mission. For 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire. And upon the 24th hour, the official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful. On the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will, I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. Haven't heard Trump say that before. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. The only thing missing is I thank you for your attention to this matter, which is how I now sign all of my own emails, including just messages to my kids or my wife. I thank you for your attention to this matter. Hey, what's for dinner? I thank you for your attention to this matter. Hey, do I have to, it's just such a great note. But do you see what I'm saying? I put it to you that this tweet was written and Trump said, I'm just going to end the war by declaring it over. I'm going to say both sides have agreed. And what are they going to say? No. Because both sides were under the power of America in a way. Trump had just deployed half a dozen B-2 bombers to stealthily smash up Iran's nuclear system, and Iran didn't even see him coming. And Israel was just the beneficiary of that, along with the whole world and the whole region. And so America's dominance was so clear in the zone. And both sides said, well, okay, I guess, my theory is there wasn't actually a negotiation. Trump just said it, and both sides said, all right then. I think Trump just willed it into existence because he's got the chutzpah to pull it off, or as he would say, he's got all the cards. Now, it's a little bit different in the Russia-Ukraine war. Remember, Trump had said in the campaign that he would end that war in the first 24 hours, but he doesn't have the dominance over either Russia or Ukraine. Well, I would say he does have the dominance over Ukraine financially, but for whatever reason, and he probably could make Ukraine engage in a ceasefire just by saying, if you don't, I'll stop giving you weapons and money, but he doesn't have that same power over Vladimir Putin. And I think Trump is getting frustrated with the fact that, he's been president since January, February, March, April, May, June. He's been president for 5.5 months. And then there was the 2 months between when he won and the transition period. So it's been more than half a year. And I think Trump is frustrated with Russia and Ukraine. And I think he thought he could sort of impose his will through sheer charisma and sheer force of personality, which is would you agree with me? I don't know what you think, Olivia. Is that too far out? I think that there was no ceasefire. Donald Trump just said there was, and neither country, Israel nor Iran, dared to disagree with it, because what are you going to do? Disagree with the guy who just blew up, Iran's nukes? Disagree with the guy? Trump was essential and dominant in the theater, which he's not quite in the same way in Russia, Ukraine. Anyway, so enjoy your B-2 stealth bomber-shaped challahs for those of you who partake. There's a lot of news out there, so much of it, and my monologue tonight will talk about how so many of our problems stem from mass immigration. And I don't think it's deniable. I think that's sort of obvious to say in 2025, especially after Trudeau and now Mark Carney have just removed the governor in any way. You know what a governor is? So, like anything that throttles things. I used to drive a Hummer H3, if you can believe it, which was sort of a single guy's SUV. And it had a governor that kicked in at 155 kilometers an hour. So if you took that Hummer up to 155, the engine would just turn off. And then when you went back down, it would turn back on again. And I think that saved my life, because that thing is not meant to go faster than 155. And I think any governor, any limit, any restriction, any limitation on Canadian immigration has been removed. They're just trying to get as many people in as possible from the most outlandish and ill-fitting sources possible. I think the mask has come off. They have a minority government, Mark Carney. They know one thing: if you replace the voters, you'll get what happened the other day in New York City, where Zohran Mamdani, who only became a citizen 8 years ago, hates America, says so, hates white people, hates capitalism, hates police. He says so. These are not insults by me. This is me reporting. How on earth could he do that? Well, because people who are foreign-born make up 36% of New York. Can you call up that Wikipedia page? Remember the one we used in yesterday's show that showed the percentage of foreign-born people by city? Can you find that again? So I say again, Zohran Mamdani, who is like AOC, but he's more Islamic and smarter and more charismatic and more communist than her. He beat Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, for the Democratic primary to run for the mayor of New York City. And winning the Democratic primary is tantamount to winning the election. Anyways, I want to show you this chart. Now, this is from Wikipedia, which I normally do not credit, but these are all footnoted. So I just mentioned to you that the number of foreign-born people in New York was 36%. Well, look at these cities. Brampton, Ontario, 59% foreign-born. Number 2 is Miami. Mississauga, 57%. Toronto, 52%. Surrey, 51%. Vancouver, 49%. Montreal, 41%. I don't know if you can scroll down a bit, but Calgary and Edmonton are on that list too. Like there's New York, and then Calgary and Edmonton at 35%. Calgary and Edmonton are as foreign-born as New York City. Would you have thunk it? But that is part of a deliberate strategy that the United Nations called replacement migration. Can you call up the actual replacement migration doc? Go to, just type in replacement. Yeah, that's it right there. You got it right there. That was fast. Do you have access to the document itself? Because I want to show the second page of it. Can you find that? There it is. You can see this is published by the Population Division, Department of Economic and Social Affairs of the United Nations. Replacement migration. Is it a solution to declining and aging populations? Well, I tell you one thing, it's a solution to the Democrats' declining voter base. Yeah, let me read a little bit. The Population Division of the Department of Economic and Social Affairs of the United Nations Secretariat is responsible for providing the international community with up-to-date and scientifically objective information on population and development. In particular, the Population Division is concerned with the following substantive areas: patterns of mortality, fertility, and international and internal migration, including levels and trends. Scroll down a bit more. The work is published in a variety of formats. Yeah, keep going, keep going. Contents, let's just look at the table of contents. The issues, literature review, methodology, country results. So they're looking at different countries. Okay, I won't go into it, but this is a serious paper by the UN, and it's called what's it called? Replacement migration? Replacement migration. You are being replaced. That's not a conspiracy theory by the right. That is what's happening. That is the name of the policy. That is the name of the study by the United Nations. And there's a reinforcing, you could call it a vicious cycle. And, you know, we've been going to Ireland a lot. Do you have Lincoln's video from Ireland, his latest one? Really tight edit. I think it was only like 4 minutes long. Really great video. Do you have that one? From Ireland, not Northern Ireland. You know, I've been going over to Ireland a bit, but like I say, I was on the cruise last week, so my colleague Lincoln and Efron went to Dublin again, huge rally. And Ireland is a population of about 5 million people. So it's pretty small. It's smaller than the Greater Toronto Area. And they brought in 1 million migrants, and they're bringing in so many every year. And what do you think that does to housing in Ireland? It is more expensive to live in Ireland than to live in New York City. And there's a level of irony there, is that migrants get their housing paid for free by the government, citizens don't. So Irish citizens, born and raised, 100 generations in Ireland, are outbidding, they're trying to compete with foreign migrants, and their tax dollars are buying the housing for these migrants. So their own money is paying to house other people while they themselves can't get housing. And every other issue too, including out-of-control crime, especially crimes against women, because many of these men come from societies where an uncovered woman is a rape target. So anyway, I want to show you a huge Irish protest. I mean, have you ever heard of a protest against immigration? A peaceful mass march? I don't know of any other than in Ireland. Now, there may be some things going on in parts of Europe that I don't follow closely. But anyways, my buddy Lincoln went and he put together this really great edit, really fast-paced, and I think it's worth 5 minutes to watch it. So here is a country standing up to replacement migration. Take a look.
Lincoln J reporting for Rebel News in Dublin, Ireland, and right now I am at an anti-immigration march. There's Irish citizens from all walks of life here to protest legal and illegal mass migration. You can check out all of our reports from Ireland at migrantreports.com. Consider making a donation through that same website. Let's check out the rally.
To be heard. We want our voices to be heard. I'm coming out here because the love of my country and the love of the Lord.
We're at a boiling point and there's no going back.
I mean, they're trying to bring in speech laws now to stop us from even coming out and standing.
We're only here in a peaceful protest. We're not here to do any harm to anyone.
Get our country back.
The Irish have had enough.
What family leaves their door open that says anybody can come in and later we'll see if you're safe for our kids or not?
I want to protest against this government.
All migration should be cut out.
It's about profit and about destroying national identity.
And this crowd reflects the true feeling of Ireland, not the feeling of the NGO class and the political class, but the real people of Ireland.
That's why people are here. They just want to be safe in their own environment.
I don't want Ireland ending up like basically most of Europe, like Paris, like London.
What do you think about the way that the media portrays this demonstration?
Is trying to sweep everything under the carpets.
They don't betray it. They don't want the truth to be out.
The media portrays everybody to suit the narrative, divide people as far right.
Do we look like far right? We're ordinary people of Ireland.
They are extreme left. The government is extreme left.
They're going to say there's about 2,000 people turned up. They'll probably follow the exact same lines as they did last time because they have very little imagination.
They hide a lot now, so they do.
The media are working for the devil.
I mean, they should be here to turn around and find out what the people want.
Like they do every other time, they'll totally ignore us. They will concentrate on the counter-protest. They'll say there's something like a couple of hundred people here. But these numbers are grown so huge that the mainstream media can no longer ignore it.
The mad lefties supporting everybody but Ireland. You know, so you know what side they're on.
When migrant rights are under attack.
Behind me, you have counter demonstrators, and the one thing you notice, where are the Irish flags? I see one Irish flag, but there's a bunch of other flags here. The big difference is on one side, you have a ton of Irish flags, all Irish flags, and here it's the complete opposite. I'd love to go over and engage, but it's completely blocked off. There's tons of police here. They're completely splitting both sides, so I don't think it's going to be able to happen.
They only think in black and white, right? They don't realise the globalists will run rings around them. They're weaponising people through open borders. If they truly cared about people, they would have sorted out homelessness in this country before they started virtue signalling to the rest of the world, telling people they could come here and get housed. If this was humanitarianism, there'd be no homeless people in Ireland. Open borders is racism.
Counter-protesters are all vicious slurs, you know, creating an attempt to create a violent reaction. And our people, our families, are peace-loving. And you can see the sea of tricolours here.
If we could get the middle class out, now there's some middle class here, but in numbers, that is the only thing that would scare our government.
If you come into the country, I'm more than welcome if you come into work. We have no problem with that.
It's the illegals that are coming in that we have a problem with. Getting put up in hotels, accommodation.
You will never mention the fact of the huge increase in population is what is driving up the price of houses and the scarcity of housing. And that is what is driving up rents up and down this country. One of the biggest problems we have is housing, and we can never solve the housing problem until we solve the immigration problem, until we stop importing people.
We are the inheritors of Ireland. We're going to be the minority in this country in the next 10 years.
We're out the Irish people. There's no Ireland. Just understand.
MigrantReports.com. Consider making a donation, support our work, and you can check out all of our coverage through that website.
I find Ireland so interesting, and those are words I would not have spoken a year and a half ago. I really knew very little about Ireland. Of course, most people of Irish descent are not in Ireland itself, for a variety of reasons. The main one, of course, being the potato famine in the mid-19th century. Many Irish depopulated the country and went around the world, including many to Boston, many to Canada, to Montreal in particular. I've seen estimates that there are 3 million Irish people of Irish descent in Canada and 30 million or more in America. I say again, there's only 5 million in Ireland itself. And I think many people who are Irish around the world love their culture, but sometimes it's not deeper than St. Paddy's Day and cheering for, remember the Boston Celtics, right? But I think that Ireland is going through a crisis because Ireland is in some ways a spiritual and cultural and ethnic and religious and linguistic home to the Irish people around the world, and it is being de-Irished. It is being, to use a word, ethnically cleansed. Hey, I want to show you that I'm not just saying that as a scary adjective. Olivia, can you call up, search for Mamdani and white boroughs. Mamdani, that's that Zohran Mamdani who just won the Democratic primary in New York City. That's it right there. That yellow thing, just a little bit lower. Nope, the previous tweet. Yeah, that one there. So this is from his policy book. Can you pump that up? I want to read it. So Zohran Mamdani came to America a few years ago and only became a citizen 8 years ago. And this is from his official platform. Yeah, keep his name on there so people see it's, you can find this on his website. Part of his plan is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. What? So you're proposing to raise taxes on people based on if they're white or live in a white neighborhood? So you're a foreigner. You only came to America a few years ago. Can you pull up the video of him speaking in English with a thick foreign accent that he has managed? He's very clever, and his mom's in showbiz, and she's helped him, but he has learned to dispose of his foreign accent. He's very clever. Or maybe he just uses different accents depending on where he goes. But the chutzpah of this guy coming to America, becoming a citizen like 5 minutes ago, affecting a white accent, but then saying, I'm going to tax white people. Is that it? What's his accent like here? Okay, yeah, back up a bit and let's play it.
भाइयों और बहनों, इस इलेक्शन में सिर्फ 20 दिन बचे हैं और चॉइस मेरे और एंड्रू कोमो के बीच में है। अगर आप पहली बार इलेक्शन के बारे में जान रहे हैं तो ये है जो एंड्रू कोमो ऑफर कर रहा है। आज मेरे पास बिल्डिंगें हैं, प्रॉपर्टी है, बैंक बैलेंस है, बंगला है,
I think someone put that in there. I don't think, yeah.
आप
Oh, that's from his actual? That's from his own ticket. I thought someone was making fun of him. Okay, yeah, play it again. Sorry, I thought you were playing someone making fun of him. This is his native tongue. But there was one where he was speaking English with a foreign accent, and he just sort of accent on, accent on. And I'm not saying he's the only one who does it. Hillary Clinton tries to speak with a black lingo accent when she's in a black church. I ain't tired no more. Remember, she does this whole shtick? Yeah, do that one there. That one there. Exactly. That's the vid.
Zohran Mamdani, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to South Africa.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
A lot of people are afraid of the word socialist, and a lot of people have misconceptions about what it means. I'm a democratic socialist.
I actually created a playlist for Mira, who also happens to be my mother. You know, nepotism and hard work goes a long way.
We need our internet because we have all of our kids staying at home doing remote learning, and if you don't have internet, you can't be taught, you can't learn.
I was supposed to assist the music supervisor, but I ended up picking all the songs for the film.
City Hall is engulfed in corruption. A mayor could change this, and that's why I'm running.
Apparently, you are a rapper too.
I happen to be a rapper. I am a rapper proper.
It is up to us here across New York to make it very clear that every single one of us deserves a shot.
We had to find a studio to record dialogue for one of the actors to perfect their accent,
It's a weird thing where I know what someone wants to hear, right? I would play to whatever X person needed from me, as opposed to being who I actually wanted to be. It's like being a great mirror, right? You know, you just give people exactly what they want.
I mean, I'll say this: he's a good politician. He's a great politician, and New York has some of the smartest people in the world in it. It also has a lot of really dumb people, and it's an interesting city. You really have some of the richest people in the world there. Probably more millionaires in New York than anywhere else in the world. Maybe London is. No, I'd say New York is more, and probably more billionaires there too, and more absolutely dopey people, and who have no chance of keeping up. The thing, you know, you walk down the street in Manhattan and you see such staggering wealth, and for many people they're inspired by that. You know that song, if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York. You know, it's an aspirational place. It's a place to go to chase your dream, but it's also a place where if you cannot get your dream, you feel like a failure. It is easy to feel like a failure in New York when you look around you at the success that others have. And that is one of the seeds of socialism and alienism and otherism, where you start to loathe your own society. And so someone like Mamdani comes in and he says everything you love to hear about socialism and smashing capitalism and defunding police and getting rid of, landlords' ability to. He's talking about government-run grocery stores. Imagine the service of the post office and the friendliness of the TSA and the speediness of the motor vehicles. Imagine a government-run grocery store. He has all these extreme ideas. But he's sort of exotic and cool. He's like a male AOC. Of course the young, stupid Democrats are going to vote for him instead of that stodgy old Andrew Cuomo who he beat in the primary. I'm actually quite worried for New York. The only hope is that, as he said in that statement there, he doesn't mean any of it. He'll just say what it needs to, as opposed to Sadiq Khan, the Islamist mayor of London, who really does believe in Islamic extremism. And the other stuff is just for show. The LGBT, environmental, that's just for show, but his real mission is Islamism. I think Mamdani really is an actor who will do and say whatever. There was an interesting series of posts, and I'm just, there's a comedian, I don't know how to, yeah, there it is. Anna Kachian. Can you go to Anna's Twitter feed? Her last name is spelled Khachian. Yeah, that's it. and she's got some sociological aesthetic observations about him. Go down a little bit more. She talks about his smile and his fakeness, and I thought it was very interesting if you go down just a little bit more. Yeah, like around there. Let's start going up from there. Yeah, okay. Let's just take a look. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, right there. I'm just going to read a bit, and we'll scroll up as opposed to down. I'm just going to read it because she's got a very interesting curation here. She's sort of an awake New Yorker. This is Christopher Rufo she's quoting. The other interesting angle about the Mamdani win is that the ethnopolitics of New York City have shifted. The old political machine, white ethnics in leadership with dedicated patronage for the black vote, has lost an enormous amount of influence. The Irish and Italians have mostly assimilated into a generalized white identity. The Jewish vote is fractured as the left has become more solidly anti-Israel, and the black vote is being displaced by new arrivals. The Mamdani coalition rests on this new ethnopolitical coalition of white leftists. That is, those who have adopted an ideological identity best understood as a rebellion against whiteness, and a well-organized Asian vote, which tipped the scales. I absolutely believe it. I remember Rudy Giuliani, when he ran for mayor 40 years ago, he said you need to know three pieces of foreign policy in New York. And they all started with I: Italy, Israel, and Ireland. He said you needed to know how to talk about Israel, Italy, and Ireland because that was each of those had, a million votes, and then there's the black vote too. And you could put it together. That's Rudy Giuliani, who himself was Italian, and Andrew Cuomo, who himself was Italian, and Fiorello LaGuardia, who was half Italian, half Jewish, if I'm not mistaken. That was the old coalition. But when 36% of people have just arrived, it's going to be a different mix. And if you have an immigration policy that brings in millions of people from places like Afghanistan and Pakistan and Africa, don't be surprised if one day they vote and vote in a clannish way. Let's read some more. I think that Anna had some interesting comments. I don't remember exactly the one I had in mind, but put it up there, and we'll go up a little bit. This is Inez Stetman, who is a conservative commentator. She says, by the way, in Zoran's particular case, he is clearly not defined by being from Uganda or India, but from being essentially from nowhere. A floating elite class global citizen with no loyalty to a place or its people, which is why he didn't bother to get American citizenship until he wanted to run for office. This makes him unfit to serve as a mayor, in my view, which I'm sure the Screeches will call racist or whatever, but I don't care. There's something to it. He's an ideal World Economic Forum global citizen. Let's just read it. Just keep it on the main screen. Here's another one. I don't know who she's citing here. My only Mamdani take is that DSA, that's Democratic Socialist politics, are popular primarily because they flatter people for understanding the world in a very simplistic way and simultaneously provide a false promise of agency. That's so true. Scroll up a little bit. Oh, you know what? That dystopian GF, this was excellent. Zohran voters and Sam Altman fanboys, that's the head of ChatGPT, or one of the AI companies, have made me realize that the average person is completely psychically blind. These men, Zohran and Sam Altman, are very obviously sociopaths to the point that they give me the creeps. And then Anna says, and this was the tweet I had in mind, the response to this very basic and near instantaneous psychological observation being, you're so cynical and jaded you can't even recognize sincerity, is crazy making. The man obviously has not an ounce of sincerity, though I'm sure he believes. Very similar to Luigi mass psychosis. All politics aside, are people really such poor judges of character? This was the tweet I had in mind, but there's more. Scroll up. That nails it. Mamdani is a socialist because he views it as his best opportunity to gain power. Vivek is a Republican because he views it as his best opportunity to gain power. I've heard the two men compared, and I like Vivek, but that's because I like what he has to say. But there is a similarity between both of them. I really think so. Here's another one. It's just a plainly observable phenomenon of people coming over here and acting like they own. Oh, yeah. So look at Randy Wilkins says, third world entitlement, maybe one of the funniest and dumbest things I've ever read in my life. This whole tweet is embarrassing. Click on Randy Wilkins there. She's responding to Anna. Just give me one more minute on this stuff. I thought it was very interesting. So Anna says, I don't even care about his policies, which are comically retarded to the point that it might be fun to appeal to might be fun to fuck around and find out. I just find his third world entitlement and nice guy act to be transparent and spiritually antagonistic and have zero respect for anyone who falls for it. So go back to the response to her, which was third world entitlement, maybe one of the funniest and dumbest things, to which she says, go back one more, it's just a plainly observable phenomenon of people coming over here and acting like they own the place or are owed something simply by existing. No appreciation for where it comes from or who built it. Often active hostility. This isn't racist or edgelord, just facts, as proven by how many of you are up in arms about it. Okay, I'll stop reading her, but I follow Anna, I don't know how you say it, Kachian. I think she's part of a podcasting duo. I think she's smart and funny and edgy, and I really just wanted to show you that he has a specific policy calling for attacks on white people. And by the way, white people love that, the kind of white people that vote Democrat. All right, thanks. You did a great job going through all those tweets. Yeah, so Zohran Mamdani, and if you think that's bad and if you think that's New York-y, sure it is, but I just listed for you every major city in Canada is that way and more so. It's more foreign-born. And the sources of those we literally have a government promising to bring in people from Gaza. Those are Hamas people. Hamas runs the place. What are you doing bringing people from there? And it's not just the Hamas terrorists themselves. Poll after poll shows that 75% of people in Gaza support the genocidal war against the Jews. It's just crazy. Yeah, here's a story in our friend's Juno News. Encampments to bring Gaza refugees to Canada planned across the country. Self-identified Gazan Canadians are organizing countrywide encampment-style protests outside immigration offices. By the way, it's my personal observation that a majority of people on protest who claim to be from Gaza or Palestine are clearly not. If you know anything about different accents or styles of dress, you can see that they are not Palestinian. In fact, many of them are Iranian. And they are just that. In fact, they swapped their Arab signs for now Persian, Muslim, Iran signs. They're just part of these 700 agents that Iran has operating in Canada that we allow in, just unbelievably so. So anyways, it's a lot going on, and I think that why would New York be different? I mean, it's sort of been amazing that New York has had Rudy Giuliani and then had Michael Bloomberg, who sort of kept things together. Then they had this communist named Bill de Blasio, and things really started to fall apart. Then they elected a black cop named Eric Adams, who hasn't been the strongest of mayors, but he did a very interesting thing. He supported Donald Trump, who came in to deport foreign migrants who were basically taking over the city. All the hotels were booked up with these migrants, tons of crime. Trump said, I'm going to take them out. Eric Adams said, yes, please. And that's really when guys like Mamdani said, well, we're going to take you out. Because there's no greater crime than a Democrat who supports a Trump policy. Look at how they treat John Fetterman from Pennsylvania. So it's a very interesting mix right now. I understand that Andrew Cuomo has decided not to run. So it's between Mayor Eric Adams, who's not that popular, and Zohran Mamdani, who has the whole Democratic machinery behind him. And there's a spoiler in the race. The founder of the Guardian Angels, so a white Italian guy named Curtis Sliwa, I think he's Italian, who ran as the Republican last time, actually got a quarter of the votes, which is a lot for a Republican in New York. So I'm really worried that Mamdani is going to beat Eric Adams, the incumbent mayor. But I think that in a way, New York had very unusual mayors in Giuliani and Bloomberg, who each for different reasons was able to win despite being conservative-ish. And that spared New York, and that allowed New York to have a rebirth, especially Giuliani's crackdown on crime. Compare that to LA or San Francisco, which, I mean, look at LA, the absolute riots, Gavin Newsom, the mayor of LA, whose names I forget, Cass or something like that. Look at Chicago, absolute failed state. You know, I forget who it was. It might even have been Ezra Klein, who's a left-wing Ezra, and he started Vox. Ezra Klein, who is liberal but he's not insane, said one of the problems Democrats have in reaching middle-of-the-ground voters is look at the places they run. Places that Democrats run, how are they doing? How's Portland doing? How's Minneapolis doing? How's LA doing? How's San Francisco doing? How's Chicago doing? How's Washington, D.C. doing? How's Baltimore doing? How's Detroit doing? For all their talk of principle and plans and policy and listening and for all progressivism, okay, thank you for your talk. Can I see your work, please? Can I see how you've actually done? And in each of the cities I just mentioned, there are still places you can live beautifully. Mainly if you have a ton of money to live away from the inner city and to live with private security. Obviously, there are extremely wonderful places in the greater San Francisco area. There's still billionaires from Silicon Valley who live there, but the city itself is atrocious. Hey, can you find that interview I did when I was with Avi in San Francisco when I interviewed that Asian cop? I was with Avi Yamini when he went across America in an RV during the election, and his first stop was San Francisco. That's where he arrived from Melbourne. And I went down there to welcome him, and we were in the Tenderloin district, which is a really rough place. And I couldn't believe the police cars. I sort of thought they were not operating because they looked like they were 40 years old. And I thought, you know, sometimes people buy used police cars for whatever reason. No, they haven't bought new police cars in 40 years. The police are so underfunded. And if you live in the Tenderloin district, I pity you. But there are some gorgeous places in San Francisco, etc. But the places that the left runs are turned into a failed state. Yeah, that guy there. So he actually talked to me. I think most cops would be afraid to talk to me. Pump up the volume and rewind 30 seconds. You say you're 600 cops short in the city. How does that manifest itself? Like, give me an example of a problem that causes.
There's not enough police on the street. So delayed calls for service, officer safety issues, because there's not enough people to back you.
As of right now, I hang out on the street. I'm trying to get a job. I just got out of jail, actually.
And where do you sleep?
Really? I just stay up all night. As of right now, until I get my stuff stolen. Yeah. The moment you fall asleep out here, your stuff goes missing right away.
How is it living in this area?
Oh, man. It's not safe. And you can just walk around here by yourself. Maybe you can do that, but then you never know what's going to happen. These people are crazy, you know?
Everything dead, everything closed down, can't do nothing, can't eat, can't shop. All these restaurants got rats and roaches down here. I don't eat down here.
They're robbing old people, even my mom and my sister, in front of our own house.
Democrats say they banned guns, that it's safe now. Is it not safe now?
I don't know. I don't believe whatever they say.
I think it's a problem that so many people are on drugs. They're on drugs. Why are so many people on drugs here? Fentanyl. It's killing people. And they do it like it's water. It's fentanyl. They need to get rid of that. They need to get rid of a lot of things.
You see people having fentanyl, bending over. It's horrible.
I was smoking a cigarette, walking down the street. Somebody blew fentanyl in my face, and I almost died from that. Just like the smelling of that almost killed me. Didn't bring me back to life.
What substances are you on? Are you trying to get off them?
Yeah, I'm on fentanyl. I was boxing for it. I'll try to wean myself off of it with. Yeah.
How long you been on fentanyl?
About 2.5, 3 years. You're not gonna stop until you're ready yourself.
A lot of people don't want help. Here's the problem, though. You can't throw them in jail. You can't be draconian or anything like that. You can try to help them, but they got to help themselves first.
If that individual, whoever it is, right there, don't raise their hand and say, hey, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired and I need help, it's not going to work.
Is there anything in the law that could allow family or even a well-meaning organization to sweep these folks off and take them to get clean? Like, is there any tool to save people who don't have the inner motivation to save themselves?
Well, I think it's a generalized question, and the best thing I recommend is this. Let's take advantage of our representative democracy. Talk to the people at your local level, your city level, your state level, and finally at the federal level. Address the concerns, look at the lessons that we've learned from the legislation we have passed and haven't passed across the decades. Look at their cumulative effect and what we have now, and let's come up with something.
What if someone came... You know, I really like that cop. The word I would use to describe him was weary. Did you hear the first thing he said to me? There's 600 cops short in San Francisco. I absolutely believe it. And by the way, those cops don't get backing from the prosecutors. They don't get backing from the courts. In a way, they're sort of like social workers. And really, what are you going to do? You saw some of those people. They was really like zombies. And that one lady who said someone blew fentanyl in her face and it almost killed her, I think that could be true. It's so potent. Do you see that young man I was talking to, looked like a teenager? I talked to him at some length. It was the saddest thing I ever saw. And that's just how it is in these Democrat cities. And Zohran Mamdani is a big defund the police guy. He's a big anti-capitalism guy. He's a big environmentalism guy. He's going further than anyone has before, saying he wants to nationalize or have government-run grocery stores. That'll take a city like New York down a few pegs. And the trouble is, and I don't know if you can find the tweet, it's not important, but it's good to show it if you can. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, made a tweet about real estate prices in Florida. Basically, it was in reference to Mamdani, and he basically said, oh boy, he's basically implying here comes another 100,000 New Yorkers moving to Florida just to get away from it. And he's right. I think, yeah, here's the tweet here from Ron DeSantis. He's responding to New York Post. Shocking poll shows Mamdani overtaking Cuomo in New York City's ranked choice primary, to which DeSantis says, just when you thought Palm Beach real estate couldn't go any higher. Yeah, so basically 100,000 New Yorkers going to come down there. And why wouldn't they? You know, I'm in the fighting business. I'm in the arguing business. I'm in the campaign business. I'm in the don't take it business. If I was a normal human, just in the being me business, I don't know, maybe I would have left Canada during the lockdowns. I know a lot of people who did. In fact, we had one member of our team move to the States. He just was sick of living in lockdowns and curfews, and he can do his job from anywhere. I felt, you know, if I'm going to speak against the lockdowns and against the pandemic, I have to at least be here on the ground. But I mean, I know a lot of people whose professions are mobile. By that I mean they can work on a laptop, they can work on a phone, maybe they have some connection to the U.S., so they don't have problems with a visitor or a visa or a green card. How many people from Toronto and Montreal moved down to Florida? How many people from other Canadian cities moved to Texas or Arizona? And the problem with that is that when it's election time, you have the worst people left behind. The people who either live off the system, like government sector workers, or young people who are hoping that the socialist system pays them. I mean, do you have that Peter Thiel video that we used yesterday? I'm showing some of the things that I went through on my monologue. By the way, every day I do a show at 8 p.m. Eastern. I do a monologue, typically 10 to 20 minutes, and then I interview a guest, and then I read my mail. And I really go deep on some of these things, and it's a bit of a produced show, so I'm not just calling out things and rambling. It's a little bit more focused. Peter Thiel, you know who he is? He was one of the founders of PayPal. He was the first outside investor in Facebook. The guy really is a Silicon Valley legend, but he's libertarian. He's the guy who, in the first term, joined Trump as sort of a Silicon Valley ambassador. He's a great guy. I've had the pleasure of meeting him, and he's maybe the smartest person I've ever met. And he was asked about obliquely, and this was a video from 2020 when Bernie Sanders was in the wings, and he was asked, why are young people socialist? It's a really good question. And I think he gave a really good answer. Do you want to play that clip? Here, take a look.
In our society, and there is a problem that we have. We don't have a very well functioning capitalist society. There's a generational problem where it is difficult for young people to acquire capital. And I'd say there's sort of two. If I had to give sort of, and that's that's the young people that are supporting Bernie Sanders, and there's sort of the two simple political things that one should really think about are the runaway student debt in colleges. It's $300 billion in student debt in 2000. It's up to $1.7 trillion today. And if you start your life in debt that can never be discharged in bankruptcy, it'll be much harder to accumulate capital, and you might be less friendly to capitalism. So that is a big problem. And I don't think we should socialize the student debt, but we should deal with it in a non-socialist way. We should internalize the costs onto the universities. We should redo the bankruptcy laws. Yes, you can discharge the student debt, and when you discharge it, it's the college that gave you a bad education that gets stuck with a bill. There's a sort of a non-socialist alternative. And then I think the other basic problem of a lack of capital or inequality is that it's very hard for people to get onto the housing ladder. The main way that the people in the middle class in this country accumulate capital is through owning real estate, through owning your house. And if through a series of urban zoning laws and bad planning and impossibility of building things, it has become impossible for people to get onto that. And if you could find ways for people to own more houses, you would have much less of the sort of millennial crazed socialism. So I think we should try to understand where it's coming from. We need to try to solve it. But at the end of the day, I think it will be pretty weak because it's mainly a critique. It's a critique of bad institutions. And if Sanders becomes serious, I think it'll be as scary as Corbyn was in the UK. And obviously, we'll be talking about the post office and the DMV, and it'll just be ridiculous. Bernie Sanders.
See, you can come back, voters can go left and then they can come right again. And that assumes that your electorate is the same. That assumes it's the same people. For example, people who in 2015 voted for Justin Trudeau, who maybe in 2025 said, oh, I did like him, but I've been paying close attention for 10 years, and I'm going to vote for Pierre Poilievre now instead of Mark Carney. But what if in the interregnum you've brought in 5 million new people into the country, of whom 2 million are now citizens? So the pendulum is not swinging back for them. They're not saying, oh, that went a little too far left, so now we have to go back to the right. They're coming from countries where they were either so poor or the rules were so strict or it was such a low trust society that they feel like they're in heaven here in Canada or the United States. But instead of joining the ethic of the American ethic or the Canadian ethic, they keep their low trust society point of view. For example, it's ubiquitous, the story of international students to Canada, typically from India, who come here to be students, and they do their grocery shopping at food banks. They're not poor, they're not starving. They just think these stupid Canadians are giving food away for free. I'll sign up for that. Like, there's just endless irritating videos on TikTok like that. And so if you came here from a low trust society and your reaction to being in this land of plenty is to take advantage, you're not going to say, oh, well, we have to recalibrate because our fiscal balance is imbalanced and we need to be more concerned. You're not thinking that way. You're thinking, okay, Zohran Mamdani is going to give me free rent, free groceries, free and by the way, if I get in trouble with the law because I'm a little too handsy with women on the subway, he said he's going to defund the police. So he's actually running a campaign that appeals to Western socialists and communists, but also to low-trust migrants who want to bring their low-trust ways with them. And that's what's so terrifying, is that coalition. Well, I see by the clock on the wall that it is 2 o'clock. Were there any super chats or anything I was meant to read, Olivia? All right. Well, listen, thanks for letting me hang out with you for the course of the last hour. I just want to say that 18 minutes ago, I want to read to you a Truth Social post from Donald Trump, and my colleague Efron just put this in the feed. So let me, if it's in the live stream feed on Slack, Olivia, and Efron just sent it to me, so I want to read it. This is hot off the presses. This is 18 minutes ago. We have just been informed that Canada, a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% tariffs for years on dairy products, has just announced that they are putting a digital services tax on our American technology companies, which is a direct and blatant attack on our country. They are obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussion with us also. Based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada, effective immediately. We will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the United States of America within the next 7-day period. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Hey, by the way, do you think Canada needs to raise more taxes? Do you think that the government isn't fat enough already? You know what I like about that? I mean, I love Canada, so I never like it when someone takes a shot at our country, but our government is so punitive and so bullying and so chaotic that, of course, when they put the tax on digital services, but they're really taxing us. So I like the fact that Trump is trying to save Canadian taxpayers by saying he'll have none of it. And I should say, let me make a prediction right now, and Olivia, mark this for later. If you look at the Heritage Canada Department website right now, in fact, why don't you do that? The number one strategic priority for Mark Carney's Heritage Minister is to bring back internet censorship. Yeah, scroll down and it should be on the page. If you go to strategic objectives or whatever, I don't know the link off the top of my head. They list their priorities under Mark Carney, and the top priority is to reintroduce online censorship. It used to be called the Online Harms Act. This is the one that made social media posts punishable by huge fines. This is the one that introduced a new standalone hate crime punishable by up to life in prison. That was an astonishing censorship law that dissolved when Trudeau dissolved the last parliament. Mark Carney has said he will bring it back. You see this True Social post that Trump just made about the digital services tax? It is my hope and it is my prediction that Mark Carney, when he reintroduces the Online Harms Act, when he reintroduces his censorship bill, I don't need this anymore, that he will not be stopped by Parliament, because while the Conservatives will vote against it, the NDP and the Bloc have said they'll vote for censorship. I predict that in our state of Canadian democracy, our free speech will not be saved by Parliament, but rather by Donald Trump, God willing, who will say to Canada, you are restricting and limiting our social media platforms, including X, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And if you continue doing that, we'll wallop you with a tariff. I don't want Canada walloped with a tariff, but I think that's the only thing that's going to stop us from having Trudeau-style censorship under Carney. That's my prediction. Let's see if it's true. Anyways, I'm glad Efron sent that. That shows the trade war is on. Mark Carney did not deliver. He can't control himself, though. He just loves those taxes too much, and he loves Europe too much. I mean, last week he was saying he wants to reorient Canada towards Europe, which is so stupid. The vast majority of our foreign trade is with America. We're neighbors with them. We're connected to them. And in some sort of anti-American, pro-China, pro-Europe move, he wants to associate. He doesn't want us to be the 51st state, but boy, he wants us to be the 28th European country. All right, my friends, I'm going to sign off for now. Until next time, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, to you at home, goodbye, and keep fighting for freedom.